Have you ever been sitting in a meeting? Everything seems normal. The conversation you're having is moving right along. And then someone says something that sounds completely professional, but your gut tells you something isn't right. Maybe during that conversation, your idea suddenly loses momentum. Or maybe you find yourself defending a position that you never actually took. Maybe the room shifts and somehow you're now explaining yourself instead of discussing the issue that you started with. If you've ever experienced that, you're not just imagining it, because most workplace manipulation doesn't sound aggressive. Most workplace manipulation doesn't sound hostile. It doesn't sound like bullying. It actually sounds professional. It actually sounds polite, and it actually sounds reasonable. And that's exactly why it's so effective in the conversation. You see, I've spent over 30 years in healthcare, from being a frontline employee working midnight shift on the med-surg floor to executive leadership. And I've seen these patterns play out more times than I can actually count. Because these phrases will show up in meetings, and they'll show up in email threads, in performance discussions, and leadership conversations. And if you don't recognize them, they can quietly damage your credibility, your influence, and sometimes even your career. So today, I'm going to show you 7 workplace phrases that may secretly mean you're actually being set up. And for each one, I'll explain what it sounds like, what it often really means, and exactly how to respond without looking defensive. So let's get started. Phrase number 1, and you may have heard this many times. Someone may say this. Just to play devil's advocate, at first glance, this actually sounds healthy. It sounds like someone is actually helping the team think through risk. And sometimes that's actually true. But also sometimes it's something very different. Because this one phrase allows someone to challenge your idea without taking ownership of the disagreement. So instead of saying, "I disagree," they actually start to hide behind this comment, well, just to play devil's advocate. And now when they say this comment, they're actually planting doubt while appearing neutral in the conversation. And suddenly you find yourself defending your own idea while they sit comfortably on the sidelines. If you've ever felt like you were put on trial during a meeting, this may be why. But instead of defending immediately when you hear that comment, ask this question. What specifically concerns you about it? And now when you ask the question, they have to name the actual objection. You see, you've moved the conversation from vague skepticism to actually having a real discussion. Phrase number 2. Now, just to clarify, are you saying this one is dangerous? Because it actually sounds like really good communications. And sometimes it is. But sometimes it's actually a trap. The person restating your point may be restating it to actually just simplify it or downgrade it. Maybe they're restating your point to distort it or make it sound more extreme than what you actually have even said. Then they ask you to confirm it. Now, if you agree with what they have said, you're now locked into their version of your statement. The moment you accept their wording, you're no longer defending your idea. You're actually starting to defend theirs, and it was your idea to begin with. Instead, say, "Let me clarify what I actually meant," and then restate your position in your own words. especially in email, because written misunderstandings have a way of living forever because they can be found. Phrase number 3. I'm just trying to help, but have you ever heard that statement? Have you ever actually walked away from a conversation feeling worse than when it started? Maybe as you're talking to someone, they pull you aside and they lower their voice and they say, I'm just trying to help, but that word but always comes. And when they say but, then they begin to share criticism, or they start to share rumors or warnings about what other people supposedly think. You see, real help actually leaves you stronger. Manipulation leaves you uncertain. So be really careful here. Don't just immediately start to share frustrations. Don't start immediately confessing concerns. Simply thank them for the feedback and observe. And then watch what happens over the next few weeks. Did their advice actually really help? Or did it create more confusion? Because that answer will actually tell you everything. Phrase number 4. Didn't we already decide this? This phrase can make the most confident professionals actually start to question themselves. Someone says, didn't we already decide this? And then suddenly everyone in the room starts looking around. So you see, when people hear that, immediately you'll find in that room people start to nod yes. And then you start to wonder if you've missed an entire conversation, or maybe you've missed an email or missed some type of communication that went out. And this is one of the oldest workplace tactics there is, because the actual decision that they're referring to may not even exist at all. And instead of apologizing, maybe that you've missed something, calmly ask, can you remind me what was decided during that time? And then follow with this next question. Where can I find that documented? Now notice what just happened. Because you shifted the discussion from memory, which we may all at times have a struggle with, you've shifted it from memory to actual evidence. And evidence is much harder to manipulate. Phrase number 5. Let's take this offline. This phrase actually sounds very respectful. It actually sounds very professional, and it's very efficient. And sometimes it is. But sometimes it's a way to quietly remove accountability from the room. You're making an important point. People are actually listening, and decision makers are truly engaged. And then someone makes that comment, let's take this offline, or why don't we just take this offline? You see, the problem with that is sometimes that conversation never comes back online. That concern will actually disappear and the issue gets buried between everything else going on, and then nothing ever changes. So if you're asked to take something offline, I would recommend that you respond professionally and say this, absolutely. When would you like to meet? And let's get it on the calendar. Now there's accountability and there's follow-up, and now you also have a record. Phrase number 6. Now, not to throw anyone under the bus, but you already know what's coming when you hear that phrase. Because no one has ever said this phrase and then followed it with some type of praise for somebody. The sentence usually ends with blame, or it ends with finger pointing, or an attempt to actually redirect attention away from themselves. This phrase is designed to make the speaker look reluctant while still putting the spotlight on you. You see, when this happens and the criticism starts, don't get emotional and don't become defensive. Instead, ask a good clarifying question and say, or ask, what specifically are you saying happened? You see, when you ask that question, you're making the claim concrete and specific, and you're also making it verifiable. Because vague accusations actually thrive in confusion. But I will guarantee this, facts thrive in clarity. Phrase number 7. I'm looping them in for visibility. And this may be the most dangerous phrase on the list. Because nothing negative has actually been said. But yet, somebody is feeling the need to loop someone else in for visibility. And maybe that suddenly, when they're looping in, is your manager or director, or maybe it's an executive who all of a sudden appears on the email chain, and now the audience has changed, and the pressure has actually changed, and also the stakes have changed. You see, the mistake most people make during this time when someone else is added on is they respond emotionally. Don't do that. Actually treat it as an opportunity to make a strategic move, because really that's exactly what it is. Instead, respond calmly and say in your email or your response, thanks for including everyone. To bring this group up to speed, here's where we are. And then you start to provide a clear, factual summary, and you have actually taken control of the narrative. In your response, be professional, be calm, and be objective. You see, the reason that these phrases that I have gone over in this video are so effective is because they sound so professional. They're subtle, they're actually indirect, and they're really often wrapped in politeness. And really, sometimes they're actually meant how they're said, but also they're actually sometimes detrimental to the conversation. And once you recognize the pattern, everything changes. You can stop reacting emotionally and start responding strategically. You can document better, communicate more clearly, and you actually protect your credibility. But here's what many people don't even realize. Manipulation doesn't only happen after you get the job. Sometimes there are warning signs from organizations that show up before you ever even accept the offer. And that's why I want you to watch my next video. I recorded a video titled 5 Job Interview Red Flags That Scream Toxic Workplace. And it may actually save you from walking into a situation that you'll actually later regret. And if you found value in this video, please subscribe to my channel. Every week, I am trying to share practical workplace psychology, leadership lessons, and career strategies to help you protect your reputation, to actually help you grow your influence, and to succeed in your career, because I truly care about that. And in the comments below, tell me which one of these phrases have you heard most often at work? Because I have a feeling that as we all participate in this video and leave comments, we're probably going to see some patterns. As we serve together, Dr. Jeff.